Well, back all the way on Thursday, Cern Basher teased this particular video. And so, Cern, I've been waiting breathlessly until Saturday. Well, actually, we recorded this immediately, but I was breathless for that 15 minutes to find out how the destruction of the financial world the financial industry is going to take place. That's a very large group of institutions and people and yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to save that part for the very end of this
Oh, I
video.
see.
So please
Okay.
stick around.
So
I'm going to introduce the idea to you here, but I think we're going to have to dive into it a little bit deeper at some other point.
yeah.
But we'll start that discussion today. It's a big topic. It's a big idea that I think is worth thinking about.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
But before we get there, let's cover some other items.
Okay.
The usual disclaimer.
Of course.
One of these days, I'll just have to, put the words backwards or mix them up and see if anybody notices.
They won't. No. They don't
Yeah,
notice. They don't even notice the, important stuff.
right. So some do. There are some eagle-eyed viewers out there. So we're starting to get some more images of the Tesla diner,
Yes.
and it's looking pretty cool.
Very good.
We've got the diner down below here, but I didn't fully realize that they had this rooftop portion as well,
I know.
which is pretty neat. And the two big screens, and then we can see over here some solar panels for the charging. Um, and this will be pretty awesome.
It's crazy.
Uh, the people that live in these apartments here may not appreciate the screen right in front of them, but we've talked about that before. I guess they're
Yeah.
used to it by now. Perhaps they get some free items at the diner on a monthly basis as compensation for their lost view.
Yeah.
But it looks pretty nice. The only challenge with this that I can think of, Randy, is it doesn't take that long to charge your vehicle. Is that enough time to really enjoy the diner?
Yeah. And so you're going to limit, so people, you're not going to be able to limit people's time at the charging station. So this, business of 20 minutes or 5 minutes more, if, than you need, has got to go away there. Because people are going to probably want to spend a minimum of like half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so all that's going to have to change.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Here's another shot here of the canopy with the whole,
Oh,
more charges. There's more parking on the back here.
interesting.
So I
Okay.
don't know how many charges there, but there's got to be at least
Oh,
50 or
there's more.
60.
Oh, there's more charging back there.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, that answers a big question I've had for a long time. It seemed like there was so few chargers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the parking right around the base of the restaurant here is you can't really see it in these photos too much, but it's not that much.
Right. Yeah.
Let's say maybe 10 on this side, another 10, and then maybe there's another, I don't know, 15 around here. So maybe 35 max right there.
Yeah. Okay.
But in the back,
There's a
there's
bunch. Yeah.
there's a bunch, at least another 40,
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Super cool.
Yeah.
S- is it-
And then we got a glimpse of inside. Elon posted this photo. And it's going to be interesting to see what role Optimus plays in the diner.
Yes.
Right now, he's just hanging out there,
Right.
literally. Um, but we do see that it's open 24/7,
Right.
which is nice. Um, and then Tesla Optimus, after said, people said they've been spotted inside the diner. Optimus said, "Had a long day." So even robots need to sleep a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then speaking of robots, Figure AI this morning announced that they're building their own batteries in-house,
Their own
battery
batteries.
system,
Oh,
or at least the battery system,
the
and they
system.
call
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
the F03,
Right.
engineered in-house and manufactured at their bot factory, their bot Q factory. And
Okay.
so here's just a few photos. They say advancements across 3 generations of battery technology has resulted in a 78% cheaper battery pack, higher safety and reliability, 2 kilowatt fast charge with active cooling, and significant energy density improvements. So you can see how they've iterated their battery pack design
Hmm.
over the last 3 generations.
Yeah.
And it's now a 2.3 kilowatt hour battery pack, which I think is where Optimus is.
Okay.
Initially, this was 1.5, and their second generation was 2.2 kilowatt hours. But just the way it looks just looks a lot sleeker and nicer.
Sure. Absolutely.
And there's a nice video on YouTube and also on X of them putting this all together. It looks like a fully automated process. Um, even soldering the wires and so on, filling the pack, putting it all together. It's all automated.
Yeah.
Putting the top on. So they just say that this 2.3 kilowatt hour pack enables 5 hours of runtime at peak performance. So that's a nice data point. So
Yep.
if you're using the bot for 20 hours a day, you need to charge it at least 4 times.
Yep.
Um, so that's that. And then calling it a structural battery. Again, there's a lot of things that sort of remind us of Tesla with your vehicles. Structural battery pack.
Yeah.
Structural pack features high strength enclosure made of stamped steel, die-cast aluminum structural adhesives. This enables it to withstand a 1 meter or 3 foot drop onto concrete from any angle.
Mhm.
And there's a little video that shows a simulated test and then the actual test.
I see.
So in case those bots fall over or fall off the loading dock, they'll still be okay. Active cooling system.
Hmm.
And again, they've got a simulation and then the actual test. It reduces thermal resistance and local heat, allowing fast charging with basic forced convection cooling.
Okay. So the cooling system is only used during charging. Is that the concept here?
I think that's the time when it's probably going to be generating the most heat.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Um, and anti-propagation and flame containment system. The pack includes safety measures to stop thermal runaway from spreading to nearby cells and to contain flames. This is achieved using a thermally insulative potting compound and rapid heat distribution. Okay, so they've got this sort of venting here
Sure.
at the
Sure.
bottom. And here's further information about that. We took on the challenge, they say, of dramatically increasing gravimetric and volumetric energy density while raising the bar for safety and reliability.
Very
Okay.
good.
And then in the video, you can see these packs lined up here and they kind of pan across. So there's a good probably 20 or so packs shown in the video. So I don't know how many bots Figure is producing on a weekly basis at this point, but
Mhm.
you can see that they're starting to ramp up their production.
Of at least the battery packs.
Well, at least the battery packs, yes. Yeah. Presumably there are also bots to go with these, but
Yeah.
we don't know. Yeah, here's another angle of it. All right. Complete right-hand turn.
Okay.
Cartoon here. Comedy and tragedy. Economics as a second person. So um, we've been talking about whether Trump's going to fire Powell.
Right.
Here's what the betting market said at one point on the 16th, which is yesterday, 10:30 in the morning. There was a 38% chance. That was the peak
Okay.
fire Powell betting market,
Got
and
it.
then it subsequently dropped down to 17 about an hour later.
You
So
mean
the market's kind of all over the place on this.
right after Trump said, "No, I'm not planning to do that."
Yeah, then they sort of questioned that and it went back up to 24% probability. So we shall see.
We shall see. If somebody spends $2.5 billion on modifying an existing building, people were making all kinds of comparisons. I think this was the one of the baseball teams just completed or is in the process of completing their new stadium, which cost less than 2.5 billion for the entire stadium. And so some were saying that would be justification for firing. In fact, I think I said that.
Yeah, if that's the full story, we don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
who approved that and whether PAL's even involved, but whatever. We'll
yeah,
we'll we'll see how that develops.
exactly.
It does sound like a lot of money.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, of course, when you're at the Fed, you can just kind of create the money that you need. So who
Yeah,
cares?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And then inflation break-even rates. This is basically inflation expectations at this point, 2.4%,
Okay.
which is as high as we've been since really February.
Right.
So inflation expectations creeping up a little bit recently. I know you track this very closely.
I track it multiple ways. And one of the ones I've gone back to looking at is Truflation. Truflation as of this morning was sitting at 2.0.
Hmm.
They had been a little lower. They've been down as low as 1.66 recently, but it's moved up a little bit over the last few days, back up to 2.0. But the really good news was this morning's was the import price. Maybe you're going to talk about that. Import price index was up zero point 0.1, and last month's was revised downward to negative zero point 0.4.
Yeah. And that's the other key thing to remember with some of this data is that the revisions can change the numbers materially.
Right.
But people don't usually focus on the revisions. They just focus on the headline number the day it's reported.
Exactly.
But yeah, I thought this was kind of funny, but true. If cutting government funding shuts down an NGO, it wasn't really a non-government organization.
Yeah. 100%. You can't.
Elon reposted this.
Yeah.
Um, and then lastly, on sort of the social economic front, this is kind of an interesting chart that shows the children per woman in the
Oh,
1950s,
oh,
and the line there is at 2. So we had one country in the 1950s that was Luxembourg, where the birth rate per woman was less than 2.
I see.
In 1975, we had a few drop down, including Germany. And then in year 2000, Macau was at the bottom of the list. And then in 2025, there's more countries below the 2 line than there is above. And that 2 line is the below replacement rate. I guess probably 2.1 probably is the
Yep.
number, but
Yep.
um, yeah, South Korea and Hong Kong among the lowest.
Yeah. 100%. Yep.
So massive shift in birth rates. Again, this is a totally random thing I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but South Korea and Japan, some of these other countries are beginning to realize what this really means. And I think Elon may have put the numbers out or something, but South Korea could basically be looking at a 2/3 drop in their population by the end of the century.
Yeah. No, it's a staggering change just in a couple of generations.
Yep.
Okay, let's talk about the demise of corporate finance
Oh, okay.
with this chart as the backdrop. I'll come back to this in a second.
Okay.
So, if you think about companies, they have revenue, they have profits, they might return some of that capital to shareholders, right? They might issue a dividend, they might buy back stock. The third option is to make an acquisition, and the fourth option is just to hoard the cash.
Hmm.
So most companies in this day and age, the gold standard is stock buybacks.
Hmm.
That most companies, if they pay a dividend, it's pretty small. It's just to kind of satisfy the dividend crowd that wants some dividend payments, but it's not really a driving thing in the world of corporate finance anymore. Most people think that returning capital by buying back shares is more tax efficient, right? The people that are selling, they pay the taxes. Everybody else doesn't have to pay the tax on the income from dividends.
Right.
So if you think about what's happening then, though, we've got all these companies that are very successful now that are heavily incentivized to return capital to shareholders, which sounds good. But what it means at the company level is that companies are perhaps less financially secure, right? They've shed all this capital because if they didn't, their return on capital would go down,
Oh, that's true. Yes.
right? So there's been a good reason for it from that perspective because, just having cash on your books earning, 3, 4, 5%, that's probably lower than the rate of return they're getting on their operating businesses, hopefully.
Right.
So that's been the gold standard in the world of corporate finances, return capital to shareholders. Apple has been tremendously successful in doing this. NVIDIA now is a huge stock buyback program, as does a whole host of other companies.
Yeah, and again, not to turn this into a book, but no matter what size your company is, and I can only talk from the standpoint of a company that my factory, which was about 5 million in sales, at that level, your next product or your next thing that you invest in has to be large enough to make your organization interested. So if you've got a product that's producing 4 million a year in sale, well, in our case, we had one product that was producing 4 million in sales and another product that was doing 1 million in sales. Well, if now the next product you introduce has a potential to only do 100,000 in sales, it's very hard to get your organization interested. So
True.
if you multiply that times, put multiple threes on the end of that, and
Yeah,
you've got an Apple that's got, their Apple iPhone or their computers doing billions and billions, you can't come along and start investing in products whose total TAM is 1 million or 5 million or 10 million. They might be great
that's right.
products, but you can't put it in that organization. So you start limiting and limiting and limiting the products that you can get invested in.
Yeah, and we're seeing that a little bit already with Tesla with the Roadster.
Sure.
It's just not going to move the needle. It's an amazingly cool product. The world wants it, but
Right.
to spend all the executive time it takes to develop it, may not be worth the effort. Although hopefully, again, they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so there's one exception to this corporate finance rule, and that's Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett doesn't return capital to shareholders. There's no dividend for Berkshire. He doesn't buy back stock. Now, it's a little bit different because he's a massive insurance company and he's a reinsurance company. He
Right.
insures other insurance companies,
Right.
right? These super cat policies. And so for him, capital is critical. And aside from what he's doing on the insurance side, we saw in the financial crisis that other companies went to Berkshire Hathaway to get funding.
Mm-hmm.
Goldman Sachs famously borrowed money from Berkshire Hathaway in order to basically keep afloat. And Warren was able to extract a pound of flesh for that privilege. So having capital in a time of crisis is kind of important,
Yeah.
right? Now, tech companies generally keep a lot of capital, but they're also, returning a lot too because they're generating so much cash.
Right.
Okay, let's think about now what's going to happen in the next 5, 10 years.
Okay.
We're going to have AI unleashed on the world. We're going to have disruption like we've never seen before.
Yes.
Okay, disruption, it means opportunity, but it also means the negative side of it, lost employment for companies, lost revenue sources. Some companies will go bankrupt. In general, if you are running a company today, the more capital you have at your disposal, the better you'll be able to weather this potential storm.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing that in the development of AI models, that it's becoming increasingly more expensive to build a frontier model. We're narrowing down the number of companies that can afford these, 100,000, 200,000 GPU, data centers.
Or
And
the
in fact,
100.
if xAI is anything, maybe the price of admission now will be 1 million GPU data center.
Yes, and of course you also have to now be able to afford the $100 million a year employee or
There you
multiples
go.
or multiples of those.
That's right. Um, and so what I'm sort of putting out there as an idea is that the world of corporate finance needs to do a 180. Companies need to stop paying dividends. Companies need to stop buying back stock, and they need to hoard that capital.
Mm.
Now, keeping that in cash and bonds is the wrong thing to do because that's depreciating in value. What I think they should do, and I'm not alone here, is that they should be investing in Bitcoin. And by the way, before you say that's a terrible idea, Tesla's already doing it.
Of course, and making money.
Well, this quarter would be very positive, probably a $500 million gain on the Bitcoin. Okay. Now, this is too short of a show to get into why Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is a form of digital capital that is secure, that's not controlled by any issuer. It's kind of the most pristine form of capital there is. And by the way, it's been appreciating very rapidly since its inception and
Right,
continues to do so.
right.
So again, this is not a sermon on Bitcoin, but let's just, for example, let's just say, okay, CERN, I'll accept for now, for the purposes of this discussion, that Bitcoin is a rapidly appreciating asset, right? And that this is a secure place for companies to put their capital. If that, in fact, is true, then companies should be doing the exact opposite of what they're doing now. They should be hoarding Bitcoin.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, we have one company that is going a step further. And you and I have talked about this before. The company is called Strategy. It's formerly called MicroStrategy.
Right,
They're the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin in the world. They have over 601,000 Bitcoin that's worth more than $70 billion.
right.
Okay. And they've been trying to acquire as much as possible by taking the money that is in retained earnings and buying Bitcoin. That's what they did first.
Hmm.
Then they sold more of their stock. They diluted their stockholders and bought more Bitcoin,
Hmm.
which actually proved to be accretive to stockholders because they were able to sell stock for a price greater than the Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
Right.
And what they're doing now is going after the two largest squares on this chart. The value of global assets in the world right now, Randy, is 1,000 trillion.
Okay.
Roughly $1 quadrillion.
Right.
Enormous. Okay. The biggest chunk of that's real estate. $370 trillion of real estate in the world. The next biggest chunk is bonds, about 318 trillion. We've got 130 trillion in cash. We have 135 trillion in stocks. And then we have art, collectibles, cars, gold, 22 trillion, and then Bitcoin at about 2.2, 2.3 right now. Imagine for a second that you've got money sitting in bonds earning, let's say, 4%.
Hmm.
Okay. And you say, okay, I don't like that, but I don't have any alternatives.
Hmm.
Well, along comes Strategy, and they issue three new securities. These are preferred stocks: STRK, Strike; STRF, Strife; STRD, Stride. Strike, Strife, and Stride.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody's had some fun with these names.
Yeah, right.
I'd imagine that there'll be a Strive and something else coming in the future. But
Right.
these three securities were issued this year. This chart shows the yields when they were issued. So Strike was issued at about a 10% yield. It has now appreciated by over 40%, and the yield now is about 6.5%.
Hmm.
And the reason is that people recognize the financial strength of these instruments, and they were attracted by the yields. Again, 4% is down here. If you've got bonds yielding 4%, you could have locked in a yield way higher with these.
And just I'm confused. Maybe other people aren't, but these are bonds that they are putting out, or
These
preferred
are
stocks.
they're preferred stocks. They're
Preferred stocks.
perpetual
Okay.
preferred
Preferred
stocks.
stocks. Okay.
So it's considered to be equity on the balance sheet. It's not a debt instrument, it's equity.
Okay.
But Strike pays a perpetual 8%.
Okay.
Strife and Stride have a perpetual 10%
Okay.
dividend. Okay, so if you are somebody who is looking for income, again, a lot of people invest in real estate for income, a lot of people
Sure.
invest in bonds for
Sure.
income.
Sure.
How many bonds in the world today earn, more than 8%?
Sure.
Right? And this one up here right now is at about 10.5%. And so a lot of investors are yield starved. And so now we finally have an option that's backed by $70 billion of Bitcoin and growing for people that need income to get yields that they're looking for.
Right.
What we're seeing right now, I believe, is the early sign of strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, that's invented a bond market vacuum cleaner. They're going to be sucking money out of the bond market, and it's going to go into Bitcoin. That'll benefit the shareholders of strategy, but also benefit the people that's investing in these instruments because the yields are much higher.
Yeah. But again, the market will out. So to the extent that they are considered to be um, risk not that to the extent that the market decides the risk valuation of those bonds, we've
Yep.
already seen that they've dropped down to around 6.5%. So they could drop down further. So
Yes.
at some point there could be less risk to the bond markets being vacuumed up as they also adjust,
That's right. There will be an equilibrium at some point,
Right.
right? And right now, the amount of money that's in these instruments, which is about 3 billion or maybe 3.5 billion, roughly,
Yeah.
is tiny compared
Right.
to the value
Right.
that's in the bond market.
Right. Right.
Right. So over time, as awareness grows, over time as they issue more, there will be this equilibrium point, and in some cases, some bonds will have to rise in order to be competitive with these instruments. What's more likely is that the yield on these instruments come down
Right.
to meet where the bond market is. Right. But that's one advantage they have. The other advantage they have is they're backed by Bitcoin as collateral, which is the most pristine collateral on the planet. There's no counterparty risk with the collateral in Bitcoin. But with a bond, you've got counterparty risk. Is that company going to go bankrupt due to the AI disruption that we just talked about?
Right.
Right. And so over time, more and more people are going to start to be aware of this risk. And they're going to start worrying more and more about the counterparty risk, bankruptcy risk that's inherent in corporate issuers of bonds,
Mm-hmm.
particularly of those companies that have given away their capital. To
Right.
tie it back to our earlier discussion,
Right.
right? These companies are no longer building their balance sheets with capital, they're getting rid of it. Where strategy is doing the exact opposite. Every time they issue one of these preferred stocks, they take the capital and they buy more Bitcoin with it, which makes the collateral supporting these that much stronger.
Right.
And they do it rinse and repeat over and over again. So we're starting to see, I think, Randy, a significant change, or this is early signs,
Yeah.
significant change in the way that corporate finance works and in the way I think that people are going to ultimately derive income. We're going to be moving away from traditional bonds into some of these Bitcoin-backed securities.
Are we going to see other companies following Strategy's approach?
Yeah, there already are 60, 70, 80-ish. They're coming up every day. New companies that have developed a Bitcoin treasury strategy.
Okay.
And then more and more companies will start issuing securities once they get enough Bitcoin in their treasury that they can do so.
Okay. Would we,
Strategies is leading the way here in terms of blazing the trail about how to do this.
do you think we're likely to see people with other strategies other than issuing bonds, possibly being a lender like a bank, uh, 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 going the other direction?
Possibly. The issue with that is then you're introducing some risk in terms of if I lend you Bitcoin, how do I know I'm going to get it back?
Mm-hmm.
There are some people doing Bitcoin-backed loans.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have Bitcoin, they'll lend you money on the strength of the Bitcoin holdings,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a developing area. Um, but I think what we're seeing here is the early signs of, again, of a complete rewiring of the sort of the financial system as we see it. And I
Okay.
realize that when people hear that for the first time, they say, no way, that these markets are so large, it's going to take decades. And you're right, it will take decades. But I think we could see a significant change in this in just the coming few years.
Are we also seeing the Goldmans of the world looking at Bitcoin, recognizing that they need to be doing something along the lines of what Strategy's doing themselves?
I'm not aware of whether Goldman is or not, but there are
I mean,
certainly other.
that class.
other companies, I think, that are looking at this, and certainly Strategy is using some of the skills of investment banks to issue and market these securities. Right. When Strategy comes to market with these preferred stocks, they might be working with Morgan Stanley, for example, to find the buyers for these investments. So there is definitely a relationship with Wall Street. And of course, the one thing that Wall Street is really good at is jumping on new opportunities
Of course.
to make money. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, this is quite fascinating. And for me, the other thing, and I wrote a post about this today, is I think that there's an important tie-in between AI and what Tesla is doing with the demand for Bitcoin.
Okay.
Here's my theory on that real quick.
Okay.
So as you have scale up a robotaxi network, here I can turn this off.
Okay.
As you scale a robotaxi network, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to drive down transportation costs over time, right?
Right.
We're all clear on that. As you build out and deploy robots, what's going to happen to the cost of labor? We're going to drive down the cost of labor massively. As you put AI into the world, what happens to the cost of intelligence? Goes down.
Already has by a lot.
Already has by a lot. As you deploy energy and solar and wind and batteries, what happens to the cost of energy? It's going to go down by a lot, right? Tony 𝐒𝐮𝐳𝐝 talked about driving all these costs down and trending over time towards zero. Not that energy is ever free, but the cost will trend towards zero.
Too cheap to meter was actually an invention of Nixon. Nixon was the first to use the phrase too cheap to meter. He believed that nuclear would do that, but now we're talking about all of the above eventually.
All the above.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, if you drive down the cost of energy and transportation and labor, what happens to the cost of food? It goes down as well.
Dramatically.
Cost of housing,
everything.
Cost of everything, right? Drive down the cost of intelligence, what happens to the cost of education and healthcare?
Down. Yes.
Everything goes down. So we are setting the stage for a massive deflationary force to push through the economy. Okay. And I see Tesla as one of the leading entities in that effort.
Yes.
Now, if you are at the U.S. Treasury, the U.S. Federal Reserve, you say, okay, a little bit of deflation or lower inflation is good, but I don't want deflation, right? Particularly since we've got these trillions of debt we've got to pay off. I don't want deflation because it's going to make it even harder to pay it off. Also, we're going to be looking at massive job losses. We need to get people money. How do we do that? Let's print it. That's kind of nice because we've got deflation coming from tech. We print our money. That's not going to be inflationary. So they're going to want to offset the deflationary force with some money printing. Okay. But people that own capital are going to say, you're just debasing the value of my dollar, my currency. And so they're going to increasingly find a source of capital that cannot be debased. Right? And again, that's Bitcoin. Right? Only 21 million can be created. It cannot be debased. It's not controlled by anybody, etc. So I see what AI is doing, what Tesla is doing as a driving force that's going to further push money into Bitcoin as a safe haven. Eventually, at the extreme, it could suck up the world's capital. All of the world's capital could be in Bitcoin one day, and there may not be any fiat currencies in existence. Because why would you want to own a fiat currency that's just being debased and printed away?
Yeah. Yeah. And so to Elon's point, and I don't know that I think Tony 𝐒𝐮𝐲 actually took the opposite, which I thought was crazy. To Elon's point, he says the robots are going to completely alter economics. It'll change everything we know about economics. And Tony 𝐒𝐮𝐲 said the same thing, actually, that it would completely alter what we understand right now as economics. Tony 𝐒𝐒𝐮𝐲, his theories tended towards more of some kind of a socialism. Elon's, I think, theories may or may not include any. I don't know that he's actually said what he thinks will take its place. My alternative would be we will find purpose. We will find things that will make us, we will find things that will be valuable, that will be in short supply, like tickets to a rock concert. Will still be only 50,000 people going to fit in the arena. So the price of those tickets will go way up. Only so many people can get to the top of the Himalayas or the top of various mountains that you've been on. And so even though right now it's already foot to butt, I mean, face to butt, going up those mountains anyway. So that will be a limited resource that will become more and more expensive in some way. They're already talking about charging people to walk on Bourbon Street at night, just to go on Bourbon Street, just to be able to go on Bourbon Street. Venice, Italy is talking about limiting the number of people per day and charging people to come. So there's always going to be limited supplies of some things and some services and some capabilities and personalities. I mean, someday there may be a situation, CERN, where we will be able to charge a lot of money for people to watch us. Oh, well, no,
I would imagine that to be the case if it's not already, Randy. Yeah. But here's another thing to think about. As SpaceX is successful in developing Starship,
right?
What's that going to allow us to do? It's going to allow us to expand humanity beyond the confines of Earth.
Right.
Think about what happened when people found the New World.
Yeah.
Right? And look at this experiment that's the United States. Right? The growth that's occurred because we found a new continent. Right? You can consider space to be a new continent that we couldn't get to before because it was too expensive. And now we're figuring out a way to get there in a cost-effective manner that's going to cause an explosion of growth. Like, we're going to need a lot of capital to invest, to take advantage of the opportunities that are off Earth. And for a lot of people, that seems pie in the sky, no pun intended, and far off, but it's not.
No, it's not. No. No, I think there will be a massive space transportation just as an adventure. People that aren't interested in going to the moon or going to Mars, but just interested in seeing the planet from way up there, or just taking off in a rocket, just that excitement. The other one that I keep talking about, I don't know why it's so underplayed. Somebody said it again the other day. There's way more fascinating things under the ocean than there are on Mars. And probably more riches under the ocean than there are on Mars. And it's easier to get those things under the ocean than they are from Mars. So I would imagine that we may see, as we get wealthier and wealthier, we may see a dramatic expansion of our ability to go super deep in the ocean, to extract from the depths of the ocean, and to have adventures in the depths of the ocean, because it's pretty darn fascinating.
Are you saying there's going to be an Ocean X company? Is that the next one on Elon's list of 115 things?
Absolutely. Why not? I like it. Well,
you've heard it first here, folks.
Yeah,
Randy's made the prediction.
Make sure you get the TM on that.
Yeah.
I'll take credit for the idea that the next frontier should be the ocean, even more so than space. You can get the TM for the branding. You heard it all here first. Yeah.
It's too bad that there isn't a Jacques Musk in his family.
Jacques Musk.
Kimball is not focused on that, but he should be, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the other day, I mean, I hate to just keep going on this, but people have time. Maybe they're interested. Somebody was remarking the other day, apparently volcanoes deposit things at the bottom of the ocean, or not even that deep in the ocean, because an island where the volcano is can be depositing things fairly close, not that deep. And it turns out apparently that some of these are like big rocks that you can literally just go and pick them up. You may need a vacuum of some kind to stick it in there and then have it take up to a ship. But apparently some of these rocks that the volcanoes have spewed are extremely mineral rich, and very capable of being ground up and refined and turned into things of value. So that's just a kind, and these are easily found, apparently. I don't know. That's all I know about it. That's 100% of my knowledge on the subject.
When you go to Hawaii, you're not out there checking on that yourself?
I'm not. My wife used to be a
Next.
scuba driver, but I've never done that. So anyway, these are just, yeah. So there's so many millions of possibilities. I see no limits to the human future based on what's going to happen in all of these things. But I do like your idea that the disruption that's going to be caused in labor and in what we can normally consider to be a day's work is going to drive down the price. I was in Costco yesterday. Maybe nobody was going to be surprised. My 78-inch or whatever it is television on the wall here that 2 years ago was $1,000 is now better. It's got a better screen and it's $670.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's good
No,
deflation. That's good
That's right.
deflation.
Yeah. No, we're going to see that at a scale that we've never seen before because of the convergence of all these technologies.
Right.
And I think my main message for those that might be a little skeptical about what I said is if you believe in all these other disruptions, transportation, labor, energy, intelligence, then why is that going to leave the world of money untouched?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
And that disruption is already beginning to happen, just like we're seeing it happening in other areas.
And you have a disclaimer that you commonly put up on the channel and, people don't read it, but your disclaimer has something about not investment advice. So I don't know how far you want to go with what I'm going to say, because it's not investment advice either. I have $10, well, it might be $20 now, invested in Bitcoin. But if I was a lot younger, I probably would have something around 5% or less invested in Bitcoin right now, because why not?
Yeah, this is not investment advice, but I would advise everybody to have something that's more than zero
There you go.
invested in something that could be massively disrupted,
Right.
even if you are skeptical about that something.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, as skeptical as I am, having if I had the same size portfolio that I do now, and I was 20 years younger, I would probably be putting 5% of it roughly into Bitcoin. Yeah. Maybe 10 years younger. I do a lot of things differently now. You'll find out, 20 some years from now, you'll find out it changes. Your attitudes do change about what makes sense when it comes to your portfolio.
You bet.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Any last thoughts, words of wisdom even? Oh, well, let's talk about the book for 1 minute. If you haven't heard yet, CERN is one of the authors that will be contributing to our book on AI, on actually super intelligence, and also the good, the bad, and the ugly that'll be coming out of super intelligence. And we're looking for people to read the book, to read it before it's published, and give us feedback. Tell us what we got right, what we got wrong, what we spelled incorrectly, even though that'll probably be the least likely thing we want you to do. We really want to. It's really going to be about the content, about where we might have had missing. Maybe sometimes, from time to time, even CERN's logic could be off.
Yeah, and I hope to explore some of the things that we talked about today more deeply in the book.
There you go.
And of course, as we mentioned on a previous show, we're going to be using AI resources in the effort of writing the book, but also in challenging the thoughts that we put in it.
Yes.
Before it's even published, we will use AI to challenge everything that we write. And so that's going to be an interesting exercise as well.
Yep. It's going to be, and that also means, because we're going to be using AI, is that we're going to put the book together quickly, because it changes daily. Everything about it is the news today is not the news tomorrow on AI. So we want to create this thing in a very, very quickly using AI as a tool.
If we had Neuralink, Randy, we could be created already just by thinking about it.
It's 100% right.
Perhaps the next one we'll have Neuralinks to help
That's
us.
right. That's right. Maybe that'll be the I keep saying it's my last book, but maybe if Neuralink comes along, we'll just be putting out a book a day, you know. All right, CERN. So thankful to have you on as always, and to all of you out there. It has been great talking to you.
Thanks, Randy.